You know that feeling when you're walking into a room alone? When you step forward and for a split second you wonder if you even belong there? That moment, that hesitation, is where most people stop, but not you. Because the woman who walks alone, she doesn't wait for permission. She doesn't need validation. She moves forward even when the path is unclear, even when the voices of doubt creep in. She knows that courage isn't about never being afraid. It's about walking forward despite the fear. Today, we're talking about what it really means to be that woman, to stand in your own power, to trust yourself when no one else does, to take up space, claim your seat at the table, and walk, alone if you have to, but always forward. Let's get into it. There is a unique power in walking alone, a kind of quiet strength that only those who have dared to step forward without a crowd truly understand. It's easy to follow the pack, to move with the momentum of a group, and to rely on the comfort of companionship. But the moment you decide to step out on your own, something shifts. You start to hear your own thoughts more clearly. You begin to understand what it is that you truly want, separate from what others expect of you. You stop moving in the direction that feels safe and familiar, and instead, you start walking toward what is real, what is meant for you. Walking alone is not about isolation, it's about independence. It's about making decisions without waiting for approval. So often people hesitate because they're afraid of what others will think. They hold back because they're worried about judgment, rejection, or failure. But the ones who learn to walk alone don't let that stop them. They feel the fear, the doubt, the discomfort, but they keep moving. They understand that walking alone is not a sign of weakness, it's a sign of incredible strength. There will be moments when walking alone feels like the hardest thing in the world. When you take a step forward and there's no one beside you to reassure you that you're on the right path. When you look around and the road ahead is unclear. This is where most people turn back. This is where they start searching for approval, asking for opinions, waiting for someone to give them permission. But those who embrace the power of walking alone push through that uncertainty. They trust themselves enough to keep going. They know that clarity doesn't come from standing still. It comes from movement, from action, from stepping forward even when they can't see the full picture. One of the greatest lessons you learn when you walk alone is that you are capable of more than you ever imagined. When you stop relying on the crowd, you start relying on yourself. You develop resilience because you have no choice. You learn how to solve problems on your own, how to navigate challenges without waiting for someone else to fix them for you. You begin to trust your own instincts, to listen to that inner voice that knows what's right for you, and the more you trust yourself, the stronger you become. Walking alone also reveals who truly supports you. When you decide to step out on your own path, not everyone will understand. Some people will question you, doubt you, even try to hold you back. But others, the right people, will respect your journey. Or they will stand by you, not because you need them to, but because they believe in who you are becoming. And that's how you find your true circle, not by following the crowd, but by having the courage to walk your own way and seeing who walks with you. It's also important to recognize that walking alone doesn't mean being lonely. In fact, some of the most empowered, self-assured people in the world have mastered the art of solitude. They don't need constant validation or external approval to feel worthy. They find strength in their own company, in their own decisions, in their own vision for their life. They know that being alone is not the same as being lost. It's an opportunity to grow, to discover, and to create something extraordinary on their own terms. When you walk alone, you redefine what success looks like for you. You stop measuring yourself by someone else's standards and you start setting your own. You realize that your journey doesn't have to look like anyone else's. It's okay if you're moving at a different pace, if your path is unconventional, if your choices don't make sense to those around you. What matters is that you're moving in the direction that feels right for you. That you are building a life that aligns with your values, your dreams, and your purpose, not someone else's expectations. Walking alone is about freedom. The freedom to choose your own path, to trust your own voice, to build a life that is truly yours. It's not always easy. It requires courage, resilience, and an unshakable belief in yourself. But those who have learned to walk alone know that the struggle is worth it. Because on the other side of that journey is something far greater than comfort. It's confidence, strength, and the ability to stand fully in who you are. And that is power. Fear and doubt are powerful forces. They creep in at the most inconvenient moments, whispering reasons why you shouldn't take the next step, why you aren't ready, why you might fail. They disguise themselves as logic, as caution, as practicality, and before you even realize it, they've convinced you to hesitate. But here's the truth. Fear and doubt are not stop signs. They are not proof that you're incapable. They are simply part of the process, signals that you're stepping into something bigger than where you've been before. And the difference between those who move forward and those who stay stuck is not the absence of fear, it's the decision to keep going despite it. When you learn to overcome fear and doubt, you realize that they are illusions. They feel real because your brain is wired to protect you, to keep you safe from the unknown. But the unknown is where growth happens. Every single person who has ever achieved something extraordinary has faced fear. They have doubted themselves. They've wondered if they're making a mistake. But instead of letting those feelings hold them back, they use them as fuel. They saw fear as confirmation that they were pushing beyond their comfort zone, and they took it as a sign that they were on the right path. One of the biggest lies we tell ourselves is that we need to feel confident before we take action, that we need to be completely sure before we start. But confidence doesn't come first, action does. Confidence is built through experience, through doing the thing you're afraid of over and over again, until it no longer holds power over you. The first time you step into something new, fear will be loud, doubt will be overwhelming. But the more you move forward, the quieter they become. Not because they disappear entirely, but because you prove to yourself again and again that you are capable of handling whatever comes next. Doubt often comes from looking too far ahead. You start thinking about every possible challenge, every worst-case scenario, every reason why something might not work. And suddenly you feel paralyzed. But the key to overcoming doubt is to bring your focus back to the present moment. You don't have to have everything figured out right now. You don't need to see the entire path. You just need to take the next step, and then the next. Because clarity comes through action, not overthinking. Another way fear and doubt show up is through comparison. You look around and see people who seem more experienced, more successful, more confident, and you start to believe that you don't measure up. But what you don't see is their journey. You don't see the moments they doubted themselves, the times they failed, the struggles they faced. Every person you admire has been exactly where you are now. The only difference is that they didn't let fear and doubt stop them. One of the most powerful ways to overcome fear is to shift your perspective on failure. Most people fear failure because they see it as proof that they weren't good enough, that they made the wrong choice. But failure is not the opposite of success, it's part of it. Every mistake, every setback, every challenge is teaching you something. It's giving you the tools you need to grow, to improve, to become stronger. The people who succeed are not the ones who never fail. They're the ones who fail, learn, and keep going. Doubt can also be silenced by remembering why you started in the first place. When fear tries to convince you to quit, remind yourself of your purpose. What are you working toward? What is at stake if you let doubt win? The vision you have for your life, your goals, your dreams, those are more powerful than fear. They matter more than the discomfort of uncertainty. And when you keep your focus on that bigger picture, fear loses its grip. Overcoming fear and doubt is a choice, a daily decision to believe in yourself even when it feels hard, or to take action even when you don't feel ready, to trust that you are capable, that you are strong, that you have everything you need to succeed. Fear and doubt will always be there, but they don't have to control you. The moment you decide to keep moving forward despite them is the moment you take back your power. And that is where real change begins. Trusting yourself is one of the hardest and most important things you will ever learn to do. From the moment we are born, we are conditioned to look outside of ourselves for answers. Asking for permission, seeking approval, waiting for someone else to tell us what's right. We are taught to value other people's opinions more than our own, to second-guess our instincts, and to believe that someone else always knows better. But the truth is, no one knows you better than you do. No one else has lived your experiences, felt your emotions, or seen the world through your eyes. And the moment you start trusting yourself, everything changes. Trusting yourself is about listening to that inner voice, the one that gets drowned out by doubt and external noise. It's about recognizing that the gut feeling you get, the one that tells you something is right or wrong, is not random. It is built from your experiences, your wisdom, and your intuition. But the problem is, so many of us ignore it. We let self-doubt creep in, convincing ourselves that we need more advice, more reassurance, more confirmation before we make a move. We hesitate because we are afraid of making the wrong decision. But indecision is often more damaging than taking the wrong step. When you don't trust yourself, You end up stuck, waiting for certainty that will never come. One of the biggest reasons people struggle to trust themselves is fear of failure. They worry that if they make the wrong choice, everything will fall apart. But failure is not the end, it's feedback. Every time you make a mistake, you learn something. You gain experience. You grow. And that growth is what makes you stronger, wiser, and more capable of making even better decisions in the future. When you trust yourself, you understand that you don't need to get everything right all the time. You just need to believe that no matter what happens, you will figure it out. That is real confidence, not the belief that you will never fail, but the belief that you can handle it when you do. The way you build trust with yourself is the same way you build trust with anyone else, through consistency. Every time you make a promise to yourself and keep it, you reinforce that trust. Every time you listen to your instincts and take action, you prove to yourself that your judgment is valuable. But when you constantly go against what you know is right for you and you ignore your feelings, let others make decisions for you, or keep breaking commitments to yourself, you erode that trust. And that's when doubt starts to take over. One of the most powerful shifts you can make is realizing that you don't need everyone to agree with you in order for your choices to be valid. Too often, we look for outside approval before making a decision, as if someone else's opinion makes our choice more legitimate. But trusting yourself means understanding that you are the only one who has to live with the consequences of your decisions. Other people can give advice, but they don't have to live your life. You do. And if you spend all your time trying to please others, you will end up living a life that isn't even yours. Another part of trusting yourself is learning to separate fear from intuition. Fear often tells you to stay in your comfort zone, to avoid risk, to play it safe. Intuition, on the other hand, is that deep knowing inside of you, the one that tells you when something is right, even if it doesn't make sense on paper. The challenge is that fear can be loud, while intuition is often quiet. But when you learn to recognize the difference, you start making decisions that align with who you truly are instead of who the world expects you to be. Trusting yourself also means standing by your choices. There will always be people who question you, who don't understand, who try to talk you out of what you know is right. And if you don't have a strong sense of trust in yourself, it's easy to get swayed by their opinions. But when you truly believe in yourself, you don't need validation, you don't need approval. You move forward with confidence, knowing that you are making decisions based on what is best for you, not based on fear, pressure, or someone else's expectations. Trusting yourself is about giving yourself permission to take control of your own life. It's about believing that you are capable, that you are strong, that you are enough. It's about understanding that you have everything you need within you already. You just have to listen. And when you do, you stop hesitating, you stop second guessing, and you start stepping fully into the person you were always meant to be. Taking up space is about more than just physical presence. It's about owning who you are, unapologetically. It's about stepping into rooms with confidence, speaking your truth without shrinking, and allowing yourself to exist fully without constantly seeking permission. For so long, many people, especially women, have been conditioned to believe that they should be small, agreeable, and non-disruptive. They've been taught to be careful with their words, to avoid being too much, and to make sure they don't take up more space than what is deemed acceptable. But real power comes from breaking free from those limitations and realizing that you deserve to take up as much space as you need, physically, emotionally, and mentally. The way you carry yourself says everything. It's not just about what you say, it's about how you say it. Your posture, your tone, the way you move through the world, all of it reflects how much you believe in yourself. When you walk into a room with your head high, shoulders back, and a presence that says, "I belong here," people feel it. It's not arrogance, it's certainty, and certainty is magnetic. People are drawn to those who know their worth, not because they demand attention, but because they naturally command it. One of the biggest obstacles to taking up space is the fear of making others uncomfortable. There's a voice inside that says, what if I speak too loudly? What if my opinions upset someone? What if I come across as too confident? But the real question is, why should you make yourself small to keep others comfortable? If someone is intimidated by your confidence, that is their insecurity, not your problem. You are not responsible for managing other people's discomfort with your power. Your job is to own who you are, to stand firm in your beliefs, and to move through the world without apologizing for existing. Taking up space also means using your voice. It means speaking up when something doesn't sit right with you, expressing your thoughts without hesitation, and refusing to stay silent just to avoid conflict. Too often, people hold back their ideas, afraid of judgment or rejection. They sit in meetings, in conversations, in relationships, and keep their opinions to themselves because they don't want to rock the boat. But the world does not change because of silence. The people who make an impact are the ones who dare to speak, even when their voice shakes, even when it feels uncomfortable, even when they know not everyone will agree. Another part of taking up space is setting boundaries. It's recognizing that your time, your energy, and your presence are valuable, and you do not have to give them away freely. It means saying no without guilt, removing yourself from situations that drain you, and surrounding yourself with people who respect your space rather than trying to shrink it. Boundaries are not selfish, they are a declaration of self-worth. They show the world that you value yourself enough to protect your peace, and when you hold firm in your boundaries, people learn to respect them. Confidence is not something you wait for, it's something you create. Many people think they need to feel confident before they can take up space, but the truth is, confidence is built through action. You don't wake up one day suddenly feeling bold and fearless. You build confidence every time you choose to speak up, instead of staying silent. Every time you walk into a room like you belong there. Every time you refuse to shrink yourself for the comfort of others. It is a muscle that strengthens with use, and the more you practice owning your space, the more natural it becomes. Taking up space is also about recognizing your own value. You are not here to play small. You are not here to blend in. You are here to bring your ideas, your perspective, your energy, and your presence into the world in a way that only you can. When you start believing that, you stop asking for permission to be yourself. You stop waiting for someone else to validate your worth. You realize that you were never meant to fit into a tiny box of expectations. You were meant to take up space, to expand, to be seen and heard without apology. The only person who can decide how much space you take up is you. You get to choose whether you shrink or whether you stand tall. You get to choose whether you hold back or whether you step forward. And when you finally decide to own your space fully, you will realize that you were never too much. You were simply never meant to be small. Breaking free from validation is one of the most liberating things you can do for yourself. From a young age, we are conditioned to seek approval from parents, teachers, friends, and society as a whole. We are taught that our worth is measured by how much others accept us, how well we fit in, and how much we align with the expectations placed upon us. The problem is, when you live your life constantly chasing validation, you never truly own yourself. Every decision, every action, every step forward is clouded by the fear of judgment, the need for approval, and the anxiety of not being enough in someone else's eyes. But real freedom begins when you realize that the only validation you truly need is your own. Seeking approval is exhausting. It keeps you trapped in a cycle of people-pleasing, always adjusting who you are to fit what others want. You start making choices not based on what feels right for you, but based on what will get you the most acceptance. You silence yourself to avoid criticism. You shrink your dreams so they don't seem too ambitious. You second-guess your instincts because you're afraid of making the wrong move in someone else's opinion. And before you know it, you're living a life that isn't even yours. It's a carefully curated version designed to keep other people happy while you slowly lose yourself. The hard truth is, no matter how much you seek validation, it will never be enough. There will always be someone who disagrees with you, someone who doesn't understand you, someone who thinks you should be doing things differently. If you spend your life trying to win everyone's approval, you will end up constantly shifting, never grounded in who you truly are. The reality is, the people who judge you the most are often the ones who don't even have their own lives figured out. They project their own insecurities onto you, their own fears and limitations. And yet, too many people let those voices dictate how they live. But the moment you stop seeking approval, you take back your power. Letting go of validation doesn't mean you stop caring about people. It means you stop living for their approval. It means you start trusting yourself enough to make decisions without waiting for someone else to confirm that they're right. It means you take risks without needing reassurance that everything will work out. It means you stand firm in your beliefs, your values, and your choices, even when others don't understand them. One of the biggest fears people have about letting go of validation is rejection. They worry that if they stop trying to please others, they will lose relationships, face criticism, or feel isolated. But here's the truth. The people who truly belong in your life will respect you more when you are authentic. When you stop bending over backward to make everyone happy, you start attracting people who appreciate you for who you really are, not just for what you do for them. The ones who leave, they were never meant to be part of your journey in the first place. The key to breaking free from validation is learning to validate yourself. Instead of looking to others to tell you that you're good enough, smart enough, or worthy enough, you remind yourself. You build self-trust by making choices that align with your values, by following your own intuition, and by proving to yourself that you are capable. Every time you choose yourself, you strengthen your confidence. Every time you stop seeking permission and take action on your own terms, you reinforce your self-worth. And the more you practice this, the less you need external validation to feel secure. Another important realization is that other people's opinions are fleeting. What they approve of today, they might criticize tomorrow. If you shape your life around what others think, you will always be chasing a moving target. But when you make decisions based on what truly matters to you, you create a foundation that is unshakable. You stop looking sideways for direction and start looking within. You no longer let fear of judgment hold you back because you know that your purpose is greater than someone else's opinion. Letting go of validation also means embracing imperfection. Many people seek approval because they are afraid of making mistakes, of looking foolish, of not being good enough. But perfection is an illusion. No one has it all figured out. No one is immune to failure. The difference between those who live fully and those who stay stuck is that the former are willing to move forward even when they aren't sure, even when they don't have validation from others. They trust themselves enough to know that they will figure it out along the way. You are the only person who has to live with your choices. Not your parents, not your friends, not society, just you. You are the one who wakes up every morning and goes to bed every night with the life you are building. And if that life is shaped by external validation instead of internal conviction, it will never truly feel like yours. But the moment you let go of the need for approval, you step into a life that is authentic, bold, and completely your own. And that is where true freedom begins. Embracing solitude is one of the most powerful things you can do for yourself. In a world that constantly pushes connection, validation, and the need to be surrounded by others, being alone is often seen as something to be avoided. People equate solitude with loneliness, with isolation, with something to fear. But solitude is not loneliness. Solitude is where you meet yourself. It is where you strip away the noise of the outside world and learn to hear your own thoughts, understand your own desires, and build a relationship with yourself that is stronger than any external influence. Many people struggle with being alone because they have never truly learned how to sit with themselves. They fill every moment with distractions, scrolling through their phones, constantly engaging in conversations, surrounding themselves with people even when those connections are shallow. They believe that being alone means something is missing. But what if solitude is not about lack? What if it is about wholeness? What if the time you spend with yourself is just as important, if not more, than the time you spend with others? When you embrace solitude, you begin to realize that your worth is not dependent on your social interactions. You no longer need constant engagement to feel valued. You stop fearing silence because you understand that within that silence you find clarity. You start to listen to your own voice instead of the expectations of others. So many people make decisions based on what the world tells them they should want, what their family expects, what their peers are doing, what society says is the right path. But when you spend time alone, you gain the space to ask yourself, what do I actually want? What matters to me? Who am I when no one else is watching? And those answers shape the most authentic version of yourself. Solitude teaches you self-reliance. When you are constantly surrounded by people, it's easy to lean on them for direction, to rely on external validation, to use them as a shield from your own uncertainties. But when you are alone, you are forced to confront yourself. You learn to trust your own instincts, to solve problems without always seeking advice, to stand firm in your own decisions. You start to realize that you are enough, that you don't need a constant audience to feel complete. And once you reach that point, you carry a sense of inner strength that no amount of external support can replace. There is also an incredible sense of freedom that comes with solitude. When you are comfortable being alone, you are no longer afraid of what others think. You don't need to be surrounded by people to feel important. You don't need to prove anything to anyone. You move through life with a sense of independence that allows you to make choices based on your own values rather than on social pressure. You no longer fear doing things alone, whether it's traveling, pursuing your goals, or simply enjoying your own company. You become someone who chooses relationships out of genuine connection, not out of fear of being alone. Another thing solitude gives you is time to reflect. When you are constantly engaged with others, it's easy to avoid deep thinking. You stay busy, distracted, entertained. But when you spend time alone, you are forced to slow down, to process your thoughts, to understand your emotions. You start to recognize patterns in your life, habits that no longer serve you, dreams that you've buried under obligation and expectation. And with that awareness comes growth. The more you embrace solitude, the more you evolve into the person you are truly meant to be. Many people avoid solitude because it requires facing themselves. It means sitting with thoughts they may have pushed away, confronting insecurities they've ignored, acknowledging truths they have avoided. But true growth happens in those moments of self-reflection. It is in solitude that you begin to heal, to understand, to rebuild. You learn that your own presence is not something to run from, but something to embrace. When you are comfortable being alone, you no longer seek relationships out of need, you seek them out of choice. You no longer tolerate connections that drain you simply because you fear being without them. You begin to attract people who respect your space, who add to your life rather than filling a void. You develop a level of self-respect that ensures you never settle for less than what aligns with your values and your growth. Embracing solitude does not mean rejecting relationships. It means valuing yourself enough to know that you are whole with or without them. It means understanding that your strength, your peace, your happiness are not dependent on anyone else. It means knowing that you are enough on your own, that your own company is valuable, that your time alone is just as sacred as any time spent with others. Solitude is not about loneliness, it is about self-discovery. It is about giving yourself the space to grow, the time to understand yourself, and the confidence to walk through life knowing that you are not defined by who is around you, but by who you are when you are standing alone. And when you truly embrace that, you become unstoppable. Walking away is one of the hardest decisions you will ever make, but it is also one of the most powerful. It requires strength to leave behind people, places, and situations that no longer serve you. It requires courage to recognize when something is no longer right for you and to make the choice to step away, even when it's painful. Too often, people stay in situations that drain them, jobs that make them miserable, relationships that leave them feeling empty, environments that suffocate their growth because they are afraid of what will happen if they leave. They tell themselves that things might get better, that they should just hold on a little longer, that leaving would mean failure. But the truth is, knowing when to walk away is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign of self-respect. Many people stay stuck because they are afraid of the unknown. They would rather cling to what is familiar, even if it makes them unhappy, than face the uncertainty of starting over. But walking away is not about giving up, it is about choosing yourself. It is about refusing to settle for less than what you deserve. It is about recognizing when something is no longer aligned with your values, your growth, or your well-being, and having the strength to let it go. You do not have to justify your decision to anyone. You do not need permission to leave a situation that is hurting you. Your peace is reason enough. One of the biggest challenges of walking away is the guilt that comes with it. People feel guilty for leaving relationships, even when they are toxic. They feel guilty for quitting jobs, even when they are unfulfilling. They feel guilty for putting themselves first, even when it is necessary for their well-being. But guilt is not a reason to stay. You are not responsible for making others comfortable at the expense of your own happiness. You are allowed to choose yourself. You are allowed to say, "This is not working for me," without feeling like you owe anyone an explanation. There is also the fear of regret. The question of what if I'm making a mistake holds so many people back. But regret does not come from walking away. It comes from staying in situations that drain you, from ignoring your own needs, from looking back years later and realizing you wasted time trying to fix something that was never meant to be fixed. Walking away does not mean you failed. It means you recognize that you deserve better. And that is one of the bravest things you can do. When you walk away, you create space for something better. It may not feel like it right away. At first, it may feel like loss. It may feel like emptiness. But in that space, you are making room for something new, new opportunities, new relationships, new experiences that are more aligned with who you are becoming. You cannot receive what is meant for you if your hands are full of what is not. Sometimes the things you are holding on to are the very things standing in the way of your growth. Walking away is not just about leaving toxic situations. It is also about recognizing when something is simply no longer right for you. It is about honoring your evolution. What served you 5 years ago may not serve you today. What felt right at one stage of your life may no longer align with where you are headed. Growth requires change, and change often requires letting go. You do not have to stay the same person forever. You are allowed to outgrow places, people, and circumstances. You are allowed to change your mind. You are allowed to walk away from anything that no longer fits the person you are becoming. It is important to remember that walking away is not about running from challenges. It is not about avoiding difficulties or giving up at the first sign of discomfort. There is a difference between perseverance and self-sacrifice. There is a difference between fighting for something that is worth it and clinging to something that is breaking you. The key is learning to recognize the difference. Staying should never come at the cost of your well-being. The moment something starts to cost you your peace, your self-respect, or your happiness, the price is too high. Walking away is an act of self-love. It is a statement to yourself and to the world that you will not settle, that you will not stay in situations that drain you, that you will not let fear, guilt, or obligation keep you in places that no longer align with your growth. It is a declaration that you are willing to choose yourself, even when it is hard, even when it means facing uncertainty, even when it means